I would describe a higher project qualification as an independent learning project about something that you're really passionate about. You get to research at your own pace and at your own level about something that you're really genuinely interested in, you don't require as much guidance from a teacher, and it's really just mainly a product about you and your interests.
So EPQ stands for Extended Project Qualification. You can do it one of two ways. So the first way is an essay of 5,000 words on a topic of your choice, or an artifact with a 3,000 word essay to accompany.
I think I just want to learn some more skills and be able to use that and do some independent learning.
I want to develop my understanding of a topic outside of A-level, because I don't think they teach, because I'm doing conservation of geography and stuff like that, so I want to develop that more because they don't really teach A-level.
At first there was just the getting more UCAS points to help me get into university, and then I was also interested in doing some of my own research on the topic.
The EPQ allowed me to engage in my interests guilt-free, and it was a step back to normal work, but it didn't mean I was stepping back completely from my workload.
So I really liked that I was able to take aspects, strange aspects that I really like, and use them to create my own topic, and I could do some specific research on stuff that interested me. So I just found that really freeing and really fun.
I think being able to do your own research, because in lesson you're very much focused towards, you've got some set of topics to learn, and you need to learn these things specifically, whereas with EPQ you get the opportunity to go and discover things for yourself and learn about different things and go, oh, this led me to this, or this led me to this, whereas you don't necessarily get to do that in lesson.
Communication skills, definitely. There was a lot of emails sent during the process, and before I considered myself someone to get really nervous sending emails and contacting external sources and external agencies really helped me build those skills. Resilience, definitely. Time management.
So I think that this definitely has taught me decision making, because it's taught me how to be more objective about my decision making and make sure that I'm able to make decisions that are a bit hard, such as me passing down my topic.
I think the main difference is the freedom to learn. In school you're very much, you're taught a curriculum, and you're taught how to do exams or how to do well in exams. You're not really taught how to take that into the real world per se, and I think when you're learning things from doing your own research, you learn them in a slightly different way to someone just talking at you.
I think for the GCSEs I had to read a lot of textbooks or watch videos online, but for my HPQ I read more official research papers, and so with lots of different people and different people's opinions. So I think I was able to take in more different perspectives and build my own ideas on my topic that I wanted to do. And so I found that really interesting and really different from the GCSEs, and so it also gave me a break from having to do the same sort of work and revision for GCSEs.
I think I'll do a lot better in the EPQ than I did for GCSEs, because if I need help I won't be as nervous to ask for help, because there won't be all those other people there. But I think it will be a lot different to GCSEs.
Great to hear some young people's voices, and a really nice way into this first panel session, which is all about assessment as a way to help young people to thrive. We're going to hand over to our host of panel one, Chris McLean, who is also our host here in Manchester. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you everyone for coming here today. I'm going to follow up with Jeffrey's theme of birthdays. It was actually my birthday yesterday. but I'm not going to tell you my age. So we have an excellent selection of panellists today, and we're going to be talking about how can we make sure that young people can flourish and thrive, and this is in all aspects of their lives. But what's the importance of education and assessment to achieving this aim? So we've got Marie Hamilton, who's the Greater Manchester Regional Director for Microsoft. We've got Sara Prowse, who's from the CEO from the UA92. We have Jenny Rydin, and she's the Director of Learning and Engagement from the Lowry. And we have Andy Moor, so he's HFC MAT and covers the rural region for a number of primary and secondary schools. Andy, can we start with you first, please?
You can indeed, Chris. Yes, good morning, everybody. I think, are those slides? Oh, I think we got the other slides.
We need to flick.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Excellent, great. Good stuff. Right, yes, good morning everybody. So my name is Andy Moor, so I'm the CEO of Holy Family Catholic Multi-Academy Trust, as Chris said, but also we lead the Sea Change, which is one of the creativity collaboratives, one of 8 across the country with colleague Emily over there, and also Inspire Learning Teaching School Hub. I'm really annoyed I've put an X on there after Jeffries, because I wish I'd stuck with the Twitter, because I feel like I've just been shifted by the system there. But anyway, that's our tag on for the Sea Change. So it really fits in what I think Jeffrey was talking about this morning. You know, if our role as educators is to help all young people to thrive and flourish, well, of course it is. But this question, I think, when we have with colleagues in education, it surprises me that we sometimes come from different positions. And I think as educators, we can be veered by the system. So, you know, talking about working in the education system or working on, often the pressures of the system, whether that be through the key stage tests or whatever, or the next inspection, they drive what we do. But actually we all agree here that we are actually here for the next generation, and that's what we're about to do today. So how can we, in our schools, in our colleges, in our workplaces, develop an assessment system that serves the needs of our young people for now and for their future? Some work that's really helped us understand this and really put it into practice is the work of Valerie Hannon in her work as Thrive. And she talks about thriving on 4 different levels: intrapersonal, interpersonal, societal and planetary. And I think in schools and education we do the first 2 really well. That's what we're about. But I think when we talk about how do we create young people for them to thrive in an ever-changing world, that concept of helping society thrive and helping the global planet thrive is sometimes missed. And that's what we aim to do in our work. And I think it's what we must all aim to do in our work. I think it's fair to say as well, there are many young people who aren't thriving in our system, even in the traditional models. You know, we look at, talked before about esteem. Well, actually, many of our young people don't feel they can achieve. That's borne out in the attendance figures, that's borne out in the well-being that kids are telling us actually as they go through school, they get less happy. Well, that's not good enough. So what we are seeking to do is to change that system and to see how we can put assessment in a different light so all can achieve in learning and life. And part of what we've done, certainly with our work across the Sea Change, is develop this 5-dimensional model into our education system, into our curriculum and wider experience. And this is from Bill Lucas and Ellen Spencer and Guy Claxton. And we call these in our trust habits, but they could be dispositions, competencies, and many countries and education systems across the world have these at the core. We don't. They're also called creativity habits. And interesting what Jeffrey showed before in terms of the poster before, we had knowledge is important, but actually creativity and learning is important too. And we've embedded this into our work to help all of our young people to survive, not just survive but thrive. And we've developed a progressive framework. So as an assessment system, we're not only looking at the national curriculum, but we're also looking at how we can intentionally help our young people develop. And in this, it's about inquisitiveness, but challenging assumptions, as we understand now with our world of fake news, etc., is more important than ever. That gives us a platform to do something different. We're a state school, we're within the state sector, and I look with envy some of my colleagues in the independent sector who are able to shape assessment systems to their own aim. It's amazing. What we're doing is bringing this into our curriculum offer. And for example, you see at the top there, we've got a great partnership with Chester Zoo, so partnerships are important to us. How do we help our young people learn about biodiversity conservation, and again, give them an authentic platform of working at the zoo and speaking to the public? And there you can see them with Zach Goldsmith a couple of years ago, but that's all developing their collaborative skills. We have an alternate provision we've called the Element Centre after Ken Robertson's work, because we want all young people to find their passion, to reignite that love of learning. Here again is some work we're doing with partners in a local gym through a charity called Weapons Down, Gloves Up, helping our young people develop what discipline means, as in crafting and improving, developing techniques, and then taking that back to the classroom. So place is really important in this as well. How does our use of place and space support our learning and support our work to help our young people thrive? Because we are not alone in this. We want to break down the walls of our schools, and the area-based curriculum work the RSA did was brilliant, and I know there was some pivotal work here in Manchester around that. But also thinking about we as schools working with colleagues, as the colleagues on the panel, but also others here, how do we build that learning ecosystem so all can thrive? That's a key part of our work. Some examples of this are the work we're doing in New Brighton. Some of our schools are in New Brighton, and we've got some really innovative work around street art and regeneration. This caught the eye of the Select Committee, and this was identified as one of the leading models of regeneration for seaside towns. Well, we're building education into that too. Within that use of space, we've created space for our young people to thrive. We have a termly Friday Night Live, and our young people have a professional venue to perform in, years 7 to 13. And it's reinventing really what we see as education, reinventing the opportunities and experiences that we give our young people to thrive. I would suggest within our assessment system as well, we need to redefine what it means to thrive as a teacher. So we also have used our venues to host a brewed. Has anyone ever been to a brewed? Never been to a brew? Does anyone know do you know what a brewed is?
No.
A brewed is like a little mini education conference in a pub. You have a pub quiz and you talk about good stuff. So it's good. We'll let you know. We can have another one in May. There's one is in New Brighton. It's good fun. And lots of connections and lots of learning. So we need to help our teachers thrive as well as our young people. So here's the thing. Imagine if, and this is taken from Ken Robertson's work, imagine if we recreated the systems, and we're talking about assessment systems here, that could help every individual thrive, and that's what we're seeking to do in our work today. But we work within a system. So we have to deliver the system, we have to deliver knowledge, we have to deliver skills and creativity as well. But I think if we do that, and we're developing models to do that, we'll see those flowers grow between the cracks. We're going to be discussing this a lot more in our conference as well in October the 1st. So if you are free in October, come down to New Brighton. Emily will be talking about this later. And we have some seed packs to sow the seeds of creativity today. So if you see us, we'll give you them and you can find out more about our work. But thriving is about everybody, and it's about the wider competence alongside the knowledge within our current system.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. Jimmy.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. I'm Director of Learning and Engagement at the Lowry. For anyone who doesn't know, the Lowry is an arts centre in Salford Quays. Salford is not Manchester, never mix the two up. Definitely not with a Salfordian anyway. The Lowry is, we have 3 theatres, we have a gallery full of LS Lowry's works, but we also have one of the biggest learning and engagement departments in the country really for a creative organisation, and we use our resources to reach young people, support young people in all aspects of creativity, whether that's dance, visual art, drama, you name it, podcasting, everything in between, and I'm really proud of that work that our team do. And when I was thinking about this conference, I was thinking about assessment, because we don't always assess our young people. Some of our programmes we do because they're gaining a qualification, but in some programmes we're not. And actually what's really interesting is very different types of young people, I think, thrive with us. So young people who might normally do well in education thrive, and young people who might not normally do very well in academia also thrive. So we work with young people who are NEET, not in education, not training, young people who are homeless, young parents, young carers, young people in the care system, lots of neurodiverse young people, and a lot of young people who've experienced adverse childhood experiences. And I was trying to think about why they thrive with us, and I think some of those key ingredients could be applied to everything that you've talked about and that Jeffrey's talked about in terms of assessment. So a lot of what we do is project-based. Young people co-create and co-design those projects with us. So there's constantly a feedback, feed-forward loop between us where where we are listening to what they want and need and adapting projects and programmes to suit them, so that somebody who doesn't want to be on stage can be in the background but can equally give of themselves and learn a new skill and develop. And I also think it's non-competitive. Generally speaking, it's about collaboration, it's about teamwork, and those are the things that we value, and those are the things that they get positive feedback for when they're working together. They still face pressures. There's still kind of a pressure to deliver something, whatever that is that they've decided to deliver, whether it's an exhibition or a show or whatever that is. There is a pressure for them to turn up and be in front of an audience or talk to somebody about their artwork, and there's a real bravery in presenting something that you've made together to a bunch of people who might then criticise it. I think the other thing I was reflecting on is the encouragement that we have of critical thinking and feedback to peers. So it is a safe space. You're not expected to learn by rote. It is a safe space to pull apart ideas, to think critically, to question, why do I have to have a new social worker every X number of months? Why do I have to keep answering these questions about myself? Why have they not passed the information on? Why do I have to say it again? That's okay for us to question that together and to do it safely. And then maybe we present a piece of theatre about it to all the decision makers locally, and they might understand what their lived experience is and make real world change happen. But there's also an expectation for them not just to say, I thought that was really good, or I thought that was rubbish, but why? Why did you think that such a body's piece was brilliant? What did you really like about it? What worked about it? And so it becomes a safe space for them to say to each other, I think that worked brilliantly, or I really liked that because. And instead of it becoming an assessment that's kind of a scary thing that's going to make or break you, actually it becomes an evaluation of each other's work that you become comfortable with and familiar with. Yeah, and I think there's that resilience there, and I guess the transferable skills that we value are the things that we assess and give feedback on. So collaboration, communication, critical thinking, problem solving, being creative, thinking outside the box. All of those things are the things that we value and therefore kind of assess together. But also I think those are the real world skills that as an employer I am looking for. I am looking for people who are proactive, who come up with solutions, not just presenting the problem, but come up with ideas about how to solve them, who can communicate with each other. Like, the things that go wrong at work are always about communication. I'm sure that's the same for lots of other people. Communication is everything, and so it doesn't matter what qualification you come out at the end of it with if you can't communicate well and listen well and respond well. So yeah, I think that there are elements of assessment, or there are elements of project work that I think could be utilised in the reshaping of assessments in the future to help all young people to thrive.
Thank you, that's wonderful.
Morning everyone, I'm Sara, the Chief Exec at UA92. If you've not heard of us, we are a deliberately different university based in Old Trafford, founded by the legends of Man United, class of 92. Apologise for any Liverpool fans in the room.
Not good.
Just saying, yesterday. Who partnered with Lancaster University. So we're a really unique blend of elite sporting ethos coming together with academic excellence and quality. Our mission is really simple. It's about changing lives by making higher education accessible to all. And all is the most important word in that sentence. So no matter what your background is, no matter where you're from, you shouldn't be defined by your postcode. If you've got the potential, you should have the opportunity to get into higher education. One of our principles that we were founded on is inclusivity, and so that's at the core of everything we do. How we approach the recruitment of our students, the learning journey, what we teach and how we teach it. So to really create an environment and a community where the students feel they can thrive. So just to give you an example of some of the things we do in that regard, we have no exams, with one exception in accountancy. We've yet to break that sector's rules, but we will. We believe in a very personalised approach, so no more than 25 to 30 students per lecturer. And that really helps to build confidence and encourage students to thrive and do well. And it focuses on life skills. And these are part of every degree, so regardless of what subject you come to study with us, every single student will go through the 92 programme. And the 92 programme focuses on those life skills, so creative thinking, critical thinking, communication skills, teamwork, all of the things that, as Jennifer said, we know as employers you're looking for when you're recruiting someone. And what we say to our students is we know that the Lancaster degree that they get at UA 92 will get them the interview, but what gets them the job is this stuff. And in order to bring that to life, we work with over 80 industry partners, because some of these skills you can't teach in an academic setting. You need to bring them to life for the students in a real world environment. So we work with over 80 industry partners, and Microsoft were actually our very first partner that joined forces with us and are in residence with us on campus. And our industry partners bring those skill sets to life. So for example, if I take resilience as a key skill, that's very different in the tech space to the sports space. And so we work with a tech partner to bring that to life for our digital students, and then we also work with a sports partner. And it will be brought to life in a real life project or a setting and an environment, because often with these skills, it's how you feel inside. It's not just learning the theory behind resilience. It's a feeling you get deep inside. And the 92 programme counts to 25% of our degree. So if you don't pass this, you don't get your degree. That's how much emphasis we put on this. Our founder, Gary Neville, would actually say he wanted 75% on this stuff, because he believes so passionately that this is the critical element in terms of preparing young people to thrive and land their dream jobs. But Lancaster University have kept us at the 20-25%. So that's something we really put a huge emphasis on, and really builds on what you were saying in terms of those life skills. So, Marie, maybe if I pass over to you as one of our industry partners.
Absolutely, thanks, Sarah. So Sarah said, I work for Microsoft. We are one of UA 92's partners. I'm probably one of the very few non-educationalists on the panel today. My day job is to look after Microsoft's place-based strategy in the Greater Manchester region. So that means looking at all aspects of where we are within the Greater Manchester region, working with our businesses, working with our education establishments and our public sector services. And we are very much about bringing our values to life within the Greater Manchester region, which is very much about empowerment. So I'm really pleased to be here today. So I'm going to come at it from a slightly different angle, because I'm going to talk about it, I guess, looking at the end goal, you know, the fantastic work that you are doing as educators to help our young people to thrive, to show them the skills that they need to be successful in the real world, and I guess where assessment plays into that. I have worked in education though. My very first job, I worked for a company called RM, who people may know, and one of my first roles was actually putting the very first PCs into schools, which was followed shortly afterwards by interactive whiteboards, and that was a massive change. And the reason I'm touching on that is I think we've got another massive change coming, and it's going to play very nicely into things like assessment as we start to think about AI. But if I start by talking about my favourite subject, which is the Greater Manchester region and some of the things that are happening here and what it means for our young people. So within Greater Manchester, the fantastic news is that the economy is really thriving, and particularly within the tech sector. So the tech sector economy within Greater Manchester at the moment is moving 5 times faster than our mainstream economy, which means that there's lots of fantastic roles for our young people that are available. And we, as an organisation, are trying to get more and more young people into the digital sector and show them some of the fantastic opportunities that there are and that are available for them. I work as part of a group of large organisations with people like GCHQ, PwC, BAE Systems, to look at how we can improve the talent pipeline coming through, how we can make sure that young people coming out of schools, out of colleges, out of universities have the skills that are needed to thrive from an employability point of view, but also within the real world. And a big part of what that group of organisations is doing is outreaching into schools to look at how we can help support with some of the digital skills that are needed, and how we can bring some of the things that we have. So we do things like hackathons, which are around critical thinking, particularly in the more deprived areas, because one of the things that we need desperately within our tech sector at the moment is more diversity. We need more people, but we need more diverse people if we're going to allow it to thrive and continue. But even for those students who might not see themselves within the tech sector and might not want to work ultimately within the tech sector, it might surprise you to know that within roles at the moment in employability, 82% of roles will list in their mandatory requirements digital and technical skills. But currently, that isn't reflected in the curriculum. And what we're seeing is that students are leaving schools, leaving college, leaving university without those digital skills that they need to thrive within the workplace, but even also to thrive within real life. I think sometimes we talk about young people as digital natives, and actually we're doing them a real disservice, because yes, they might be good at some technical aspects, but they've not necessarily got the digital skills that they need for the workplace. Which brings me on to my first point, really, about the change that we're seeing at the moment. How many people in here are using AI at the moment, or have started to embed it into the curriculum? Fantastic. How many people have banned AI? That is brilliant to see. Interestingly, in a room about 3 months ago where I was talking to teachers and head teachers, a lot of them had at that point banned AI, whereas I think it's really important that our young people understand AI, understand the challenges that go with it. One of the things that we teach quite often is about how to recognise things like deepfakes, how to understand some of the biases that there are within AI, how to work with them, because when they move into the world of work, it's going to be everywhere. So within Microsoft at the moment, we have rolled out AI tools, and we're using them on a day-by-day basis to improve our productivity. But I just wanted to share some stats with you around AI, because I know at the moment there is a feeling that AI is going to have a big impact on jobs and roles moving forward. It definitely will. So the roles that we see today are not the roles for tomorrow. And I understand within teaching that's always been the case, but I think that acceleration is much, much faster than it's ever been. And actually that makes your job much harder, and it makes it much more difficult to assess. Because when you look at AI, it's going to be very difficult to understand where somebody's used AI within their work and where somebody hasn't. But actually when you move into the world of the work, it's going to be the norm anyway. We think that AI in the short term is actually going to lead to more jobs, not less jobs. And we recently did a survey where we looked at the future of work, and we surveyed lots of different organisations to look at the skills that people were looking for. And I guess it comes back to some of your points really around when we look at that, analytical judgment was the number one that employers were looking for. How do we test analytical judgment? How do we look at critical thinking? How do we judge people's project work? Flexibility. The ability to adapt to change, and then importantly, emotional IQ. How do people communicate? How do they work with each other? How do they come together to make a difference? And the problem at the moment is it's very, very hard to test these things, and sometimes they're not discussed within the classroom. I know it's a really tough job being a teacher, but you know, you've got a real opportunity to empower our young people and create that belief so that when they move out into the real world, they don't just have the skills that they need from employability, but also for everyday life.
Brilliant, thank you. Just inspired by the first question we had today, I just wondered whether you could just very quickly answer a question on what would you change within the current education system if you had to do something at the moment? So just a quick answer from all of you. Marie, would you?
So for me, I would, it's two things I'm afraid. So firstly, embed digital skills. I think digital skills are absolutely critical and they don't feature enough. And then secondly, it's those softer skills as well, that ability to collaborate and work. How do you assess that? How do you bring people together?
Brilliant, thank you. Sarah?
There's so much that's flawed with the education system, but for me, I think if I was the education minister, not that I would ever want that job, hasten to add, but for me it's funding. right from primary through to higher education, there is not a correct funding model to do all the things that we want to do with curriculum, how we teach, how we support our learners, how we prepare them for the digital age, the tech they need. And a lot of it comes back to a funding problem. So that would be where I'd go first.
Brilliant, thank you. Jen?
Inevitably, creativity. Lots of creative subjects are devalued, as mentioned by Jeffrey earlier, and actually there's lots of young people that maybe miss out on opportunities to discover talents and discover strengths when creativity isn't embedded in the curriculum. And I know that's not teachers' choices, there's lots of teachers being pushed out of that realm as well. So that, and I guess investment in teachers and value of teachers, it blows my mind that how much more some things get paid than our teachers do. So, yeah.
Thank you. Andy?
I just have to build on what's been said. Funding is critical, because without the funding we can't achieve what we want for our young people, particularly with the inequality of the system for those in disadvantaged areas. But again, you know, that opportunity to reshape, rethink assessment and design a curriculum that it works for our young people. You know, do we value what we measure? Do we measure what we value? Jeffrey said before, it's absolutely key. We've got a system, we work within it. Let's make the system fit for purpose for our young people and for our teachers.
Brilliant, thank you. Can we open it up to the floor now? Any questions that anyone has for anybody on the panel or jointly between all of them? Sorry, we have...
Hi, it's for Marie. You were talking about AI, and we do the IB, so it's really coursework based in terms of our examinations. And I am struggling at the moment because the students are definitely using AI to produce their piece of coursework. So therefore, and the coursework is kind of like the EPQ. So what I think that they used to put a lot of effort, they used to gain a lot more from their coursework than they do now. And is there any way of us to, I don't know, make it kind of like it was, but with them using AI at the same time? I don't know, it's hard.
It is really challenging, I agree, and there are no easy answers at the moment because it is so new. So if we'd have been here 18 months ago, we wouldn't have been talking about AI at all. So it's it is still an emerging technology. What I will say is it's going to be absolutely impossible for you to stop your students from using AI, and it's going to be very difficult for you as an educator to see where they have. I think what we need to be teaching our young people, though, is those critical skills, because one of the things with AI is that really all it's doing is looking for patterns. So it's going, if this is the first word, what's the second word? And that's how it does it. It doesn't really understand what it's doing, so it makes a lot of mistakes. So it's, how do we teach our young people to use AI in a positive way and understand the mistakes that it's going to use, that it's going to make, so that they can mitigate against them and change them? Because actually when they go into work, they are going to be using AI on a regular basis. And one of the things I do, to be honest, when I'm talking to young people, is I use pictures. So I quite often use DALL-E, which is an AI that's looking at pictures, and get them to design things and then show them the mistakes that the pictures are making, because it's a lot clearer when you look at pictures than it is when you're looking at a whole essay. But I don't envy your role. I agree, it's very tricky at the moment, but it's how do we embed it rather than stop them from using it, I guess.
Yeah, because I'm a bit worried that they'll take away coursework because of it and then just base everything on exams.
Yes, which would be disastrous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Gary in the centre.
Sorry, it's another AI question, but it's for the whole panel as well, I guess. Is something that I think is missing is curiosity. And with AI, with the onset of AI, it's kind of almost saying knowledge is taken care of. We started this with Google. We said we'll Google it. You find something out, we Google it. AI is a much, much more sophisticated search tool in that sense. So we teach curiosity deliberately in early years, then we start to lose it again. This is an old trope that I'm just saying, we all know this. So it's where that's coming into, not as a soft skill, but actually as a hard skill. Because with AI, it's about how to ask the right question. So we've got to be doing that with our students. What sort of questions are the right questions? As well as you say before, about whether something's authentic or not and how to spot that. But good questioning, and how do we do that and how do we bring that in? It's more of a statement than a question, I guess.
And maybe we could just go through the panel, because I think everyone's going to have a possibly have an opinion on that. So Andy, curiosity, how can we
I think it's interesting
assess
calling
that?
it a soft skill to hard skill, because it's the engine of everything, isn't it, curiosity? And there's so much synergy with what we've all said. In that 5-dimensional model, we use the word inquisitiveness, but ultimately it's curiosity, and how are we developing that curiosity? Because we did some research with our secondary colleagues about how many young people asked questions in a year 10 class. It was about 2. In the example where there was so much in the early, so it is joke, but actually it's a fact. So we have to develop the framework to make sure that everybody knows where that fits and where the fuel of that curiosity sits within the core curriculum, as well as the use of AI. Because I think if we're just going to teach an exam spec to get through some sort of Key Stage 4 tests, then that's when it falls out, doesn't it? But helping our teachers to see where that fits in the science lesson, the maths lesson, the art lesson, the music lesson, and making sure that that is a hard skill that's understood across the sector is critical for me. So it's keeping it alive, and that framework allows us to do that and then carry on into the workplace.
Great, thank you. Jenny?
From an arts perspective, it's a really live debate. So lots of creatives feel quite uncomfortable about AI and what that does to their artistic, I guess, integrity or intellectual property. And I think probably encouraging young people to think about that and understand that and question some of that, as you talked about, so work with it and be curious about it rather than trying to shut it down, because otherwise it'll happen anyway, I guess.
So I think, we certainly embraced it as it was emerging, because I think it's really important for young learners to know how to use AI in an ethical way and not shy away from that. So we embraced it from the get-go. Our assessments are authentic assessments that are applied in practice. And so whilst AI is a useful sort of research tool and far more powerful, as you said, than Google searches, I use it myself for exactly that. If the assessment is applied, it then needs the thought process and the curiosity and the creative thinking to take that input and apply it. So we've moved to a menu of assessment that is really rooted in practice and applied. So it isn't just, let's say, a written assessment anymore. So hopefully that helps.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I think for me, interestingly, I think AI is actually more attractive to creatives than sort of standard IT and technology. And I think those creative skills are even more important than they've ever been. So I would count myself as a creative, to be honest. So I've spent most of my career in technology, but it was very accidental. I didn't plan to go into technology. And really, most of my skills are around problem solving, looking for problems and identifying solutions. And for me, I see AI as a tool to help me identify those solutions. But we also see AI used extensively in art, in drama. My children are using AI at the moment to do designs and to use it really to express themselves. So I think from a technology point of view, we need more creatives, not less creatives.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. My name's Chris. I wanted to ask a question on the concept of the quality and equity of the use of AI, and I'm just drawing on some ideas from previous speakers and questions being asked. So my school caters for what we call the bottom third, the third that don't meet standards at Key Stage 2. They come to our school, so they make up a large bulk of our population. And I worry that they don't have the language skills to even ask the questions they need to utilise AI to benefit from it. And my concern is, again, with funding and digital hardware, we're a school that's underfunded, our hardware is quite archaic. So the wider question is, you have a system that might be unequal, if we can use that term, and as we have these emerging technologies and those who benefit very early on, such as students who use the International Baccalaureate, who can use AI to their benefit to improve their gradings, where does that sit for our bottom third, the 1 in 3, for those who aren't in education? They're 1 in 3 children who don't meet standards based on the current assessment system. So what is it that we're valuing? What is it that we're assessing? And that's what I focus on, is that bottom third, because they need something. So as a panel, how do you see AI being designed in a way that can allow them to access it if they don't even have the skills, the digital skills, let alone the literacy skills, to even enter into that world? Some of them don't even have the hardware at home, no IT, no broadband. So during COVID, that's one of the challenges we had to fight. So what's your views on that? So equality, equity question, really.
Who wants to go first?
Shall I?
Yep,
go?
Marie?
Yeah. So interestingly, one of the things I do, because obviously I'm not particularly with education, I also work across the sector. I do a lot of work on digital inclusion as well, so I know that this is a massive issue across our region. 1.2 million people digitally excluded in some way, and obviously the impact on children, 100,000 children excluded from education during the pandemic because they didn't have access to devices. So it is a real issue. I think unfortunately, it's really hard to fix the access issue, but actually, once people have got access, I think AI actually is an enabler. It's much easier for the demographic that you're speaking about to be able to use AI, and we've demonstrated that ourselves in the we have an employee volunteer group who work with lots of different students. One particular group is interested in working with children from SEN schools, and the activities that we run with those students are actually AI activities, and they design creative activities. We sit down with them and we get them to design things using AI, and they come away excited because it's something they've been able to create that they can show, that they can share. So I think actually it could be an enabler if we can get the access right.
Any quick responses? Just to pick up on the digital poverty piece, actually. So we do a lot of work with our industry partners so that we can give students laptops and data, because about 40% of the students that join us can't afford them. And obviously that's a massive barrier to studying if you haven't got a laptop and you haven't got access to data. We also do free lunch as well, because don't get me started on the free school lunches stopping at 18. That's a separate topic. So I think the digital poverty gap is a massive problem. So we're certainly doing a lot of work to push into that space to give devices. But it doesn't necessarily help some of the aspect of the question, but that's certainly what we're doing around devices.
I think building on that, there could be some really creative solutions from universities, libraries, local hubs coming together. How do we use these spaces and our resources outside of teaching time? How do we come together and open our doors and actually have a pathway through to higher education? Because at primary school on a Saturday you went and did, I don't know, something digital in a digital suite somewhere, not my realm, but I think there's creative ways that we can think more place-based and collectively about solving these problems. I don't know who leads that. I guess that's the other question.
It's about community, isn't it? It's about local authority, it's about the funding. I mean, so much has been stripped back, connections and all the rest, but I think collectively we're in a community that are doing the best, and we are all targeting those digital poverty, whatever poverty we're talking about, all those, that's what disadvantages a marginalised society. But you're right, it has to start somewhere, and we need to get someone to bring it together.
I think it's the ecosystem you're talking about, that, isn't it? It's that learning ecosystem, how do we connect? But also the other thing, I think, once the access is sorted, it's creating a really clear language for learning as well around that, giving them the words, giving them the tools, and then shaping the curriculum, you know, with a really creative eye to allow them to succeed and allow them to achieve, really, which is the gift, I think, of us as educators, but it's, you know, working within the system.
One more question. So I was going to try and go for someone is anyone back? Oh, here we go. So we've got a couple of minutes, but we can definitely get one more question.
Hello, I'm Mary Kennett-Cook, and I chair Pearson's UK Business. I just wanted to ask the question, am I the only person in the room who feels a little bit uncomfortable about assessing what have been called soft skills or hard skills or whatever you want to term them, on the basis that they probably change a lot more as someone grows up and indeed into adulthood, or when people become parents, or, you know, all sorts of things change people's skills. Particularly, I think communication. Jenny, you said, you know, communications is everything, and actually some people aren't very good communicators but might be very good at something else, and I worry about that from a kind of an inclusion point of view. So should we assess it, and should we assess these skills, or are we excuse me, in danger of kind of labelling people with an assessment that sticks with them too long? And secondly, might we then be in danger of excluding people from things that perhaps don't need all of these skills, or only need some of them, or who've got other skills which are valuable in different ways?
I guess it's the multi-model assessment. So I'm not saying only assess communication skills, and I also think obviously communication skills are so different, so it could be written, it could be BSL, it could be first languages is the other consideration. You know, we work in a system where lots of young people, English is an additional language, but they might be a brilliant writer in their first language. So I think it's thinking more broadly about that multi-model assessment and how we can have parity within that is inclusive and enables inclusion rather than exclusion. But yeah, I take your point, there are risks within it. There are assessment systems that already work towards those things, so I think it's Pearl. Maybe that's old now. It's like adult learners, so there's a Pearl assessment system that's used with adult learners that does assess some of those core, I'd call them core skills.
Yeah, I would say as well that it's interesting about the exclusion inclusion thing. Our whole kind of drive for this is for inclusion, because there are too many young people excluded from the current system. So I think whilst there's concerns, and we understand that, I think this is a way of helping our young people achieve and succeed, and it's how we use that assessment. Multimodal assessment is absolutely key. If it's something that we as educators have from a top-down approach and label the children and they carry on, then I don't think it's going to work. It's about those young people understanding that framework, understanding how they get better at collaboration in terms of giving and receiving feedback. And I would say actually the frameworks that we've developed apply to a 4-year-old in an early years class as much to the teachers or the leaders in an executive boardroom. In actual fact, that's been really interesting. We've used the lens to look at how we all learn. So whilst there's dangers, I think it's absolutely a tool for inclusion rather than exclusion.
I think as well at the moment, so the current assessment system is actually labelling people. The current assessment system is built around certain skills and it looks for certain knowledges which it then assesses and gives labels to. So I'll give you an example. I've got 2 sons. My 11-year-old at the moment is going through his SATs and he's being drilled at the moment for his SATs. So he's doing an extra 3 hours of work a week, which if it was up to me, he wouldn't do. But unfortunately, he's got peer pressure in order to do that. And I do question some of the things that he's been taught. He hasn't been taught anything around technology, but he can tell me, what is a front-loaded adverbial. I've got an English degree, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't had to look it up. So I wonder and I question why it's really important for my 11-year-old to know that.
Yes. I think also as well, it's in terms of how we handle it. We look at it as a body of work. So our students have what's called a learning journal for the 3 years that they're with us. And for me, it's about distance travelled. So you might have a student that starts with you in the first year who is an amazing communicator. Well, in 3 years' time, how far has that student travelled in terms of their skills? Somebody could have started with you in the first year who's not a great communicator, but if at the end of 3 years they're able to say, not necessarily present like this, but just communicate, that's an enormous distance travelled. So it's recognising it on an individual level. And the other thing that we teach as part of it is self-coaching and self-analysis, so that you can almost, critique yourself. And that really helps as people get older, because you then got the skill set to, do that self-reflection on yourself as you get older and your skills do change, as the lady said.
That's brilliant. And thank you for all your contributions today. Can we thank you?